Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a pretty radical idea. What if the real reason our most important long-term projects seem to fail isn't a lack of money, but the very nature of money itself? We're diving into a fascinating paper on what it calls regenerative capital systems. I mean, think about it. You see it everywhere. Decaying bridges, scientific research that's chronically underfunded, public health systems just lurching from one crisis to another. We see these long-term projects just crumble. But what if the reason isn't bad management or just not enough cash? What if it's something way deeper? Well, according to the source material for this explainer, the core problem isn't our people or our policies. It's that the very structure of our money, the way it's designed to work over time, is fundamentally broken for any long-term goal. You could almost say it's designed to fail.
Okay, so let's really dive into this idea of the capital failure problem. It's pretty much the foundation for this entire argument. You know, when a big project goes off the rails, we usually blame these familiar culprits, right? Political short-termism, weak governance. And look, those are definitely real issues. But this paper argues they're just symptoms of a much deeper, hidden problem in the very architecture of our funding.
So let's explore this deeper problem. To do that, we need to look at what you could call money's hidden rhythm and why it's so often completely out of sync with the world it's supposed to be building.
Okay, so this is the crucial point. The systems we want to last, like, say, infrastructure or scientific research, they have long, steady mission cycles. Think of the 50-year lifespan of a bridge. But the money that funds them, that runs on short, chaotic capital cycles, driven by volatile things like market performance and election cycles. This fundamental mismatch, this clash between the rhythm of the mission and the rhythm of the money, it leads to something the paper calls cycle coupling, and it's basically a blueprint for guaranteed decline.
So what that means is our funding is structurally hardwired to the ups and downs of things that have nothing to do with the project itself. Suddenly, the funding for that 50-year bridge is tied to a quarterly earnings report or the outcome of a 2-year political cycle. It just inherits all of that external chaos. And you can see exactly how this works in practice across different kinds of capital. Debt financing, well, that subjects a project to the whims of credit markets. Government grants, that ties it to unpredictable budget approvals. Even philanthropy makes it dependent on the shifting focus of donors. Every single one of them bakes instability right into the system from the start. But what if we could design capital differently? This brings us to the core solution proposed in the paper, a new regenerative architecture for funding. The whole solution really boils down to 2 key steps. First is decoupling. That just means structurally insulating the money from all those outside shocks we were just talking about. And second is alignment, which is about perfectly timing the capital's availability to the project's real-world schedule. So decoupling, think of it like creating a protective firewall around the project's funding. It makes the capital stable and predictable, so it literally doesn't matter if the market is crashing or who wins the next election. The money stays available, just as planned. Alignment is the next crucial step. It takes that stable, decoupled capital and makes sure it arrives exactly when and where it's needed. Not a year too early or a year too late, but in perfect sync with the mission's actual life cycle. Like when a bridge needs a major repair in year 25. So how do you actually build a system like this? Well, the paper offers a blueprint with 6 non-negotiable design rules. It calls them invariants. 6. That's the number of hard rules a system has to follow to be truly regenerative. And here's the kicker. Break just one, and the entire structure fails. It's all or nothing. And here they are. They make sure capital is non-extractive, which means it serves the mission, not outside investors. It's got to have a non-liability structure, so it never creates crippling debt. It's designed for a multi-cycle regeneration, so it can persist for the long haul, with cycle-aligned deployment to match the mission's real-world needs. And finally, it uses decentralized agency and is built for compounding system value, which means it actually grows the project's capability over time instead of draining it. Now, here's the thing. This isn't just some abstract theory. This new way of designing capital for endurance, it already has a real-world proof of concept. A real-world model called Perpetual Social Capital, or PSC, has actually been built based on these 6 principles. It proves that it is absolutely possible to create funding systems that are non-extractive, liability-free, and perfectly aligned with long-term missions. So, the crucial point to take away from this entire explainer is that we can completely reframe public finance. We can stop focusing only on financial return and scarcity, and instead start treating time as the most important factor in our design. It's a huge shift from asking how much money to asking how does the money behave over time. And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question. What becomes possible for our infrastructure, for our climate goals, for scientific discovery, for our collective future? What could we build if the money we use to build them is finally designed to last as long as the missions themselves?